Here to talk about the city's response to the coronavirus is Irving Mayor Rick Stopfer. Mayor, thanks for being here.
Well, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. It's great to be with everybody and talk about something that's on all of our minds.
What is the most pressing issue right now that residents need to know about?
Well, I think the most pressing issue that we have right now is the distancing and the washing of the hands. While it sounds like it's very simple, it's something that I hear about continually by the people that are out walking or the people that are in the grocery stores doing things of, the day-to-day things that we do. We tend to forget the distancing, and that seems to be one of the things that I get the most calls and emails about is how can we make sure that people are practicing distancing. And more people are concerned about wearing gloves and masks. As I drove in this morning through a couple different grocery store lots, I noticed that the people that were going in had masks on and had gloves on.
Important reminders, of course, and I think one of the other top questions on everyone's minds is when are we going to see a return to normalcy with businesses reopening?
Well, I think that we're going to have a long haul before we see everything come back. I think it's going to be in phases. I think because of the distancing and the things of that nature, it's going to take a while for us to figure out how we're going to do business again and how we're going to work together and how we're going to, for example, I was just mentioning, the thing I'm looking forward to is getting a haircut. But how are we going to be able to do that to continue to maintain the distancing and things? Because even though we will come out of this, there's always going to be the opportunity for us to still have this virus there. And so that is something we're going to have to deal with. So I think we're going to have a new norm. I think it's going to be a slow rollout of businesses. Certain ones are going to be able to start sooner than others. And then it's going to be a rollout, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some adjustment by both the businesses and us as to how we interact.
Yeah, certainly a lot to think about with no vaccine and the asymptomatic spread complicating everything. And you continue to work closely with the county, state, and federal partners. Take us inside those conversations. What are the top concerns you're hearing from them?
Well, again, what we're hearing from them is how do we help the people? And I just mentioned some of the things that we can do on our own, but really the real challenge we're running into right now is how do we take care of those individuals who are stay at home, and how do we make sure that their finances are in place? How do we make sure that the businesses that are still in business can continue to operate and continue to have the dollars they need, continue to have the employees they need? There's that issue with making sure that those essential businesses are working. But also we're very focused and concerned about how are we going to deal with the unemployment situation, those individuals that have lost their jobs or have been furloughed. How do we make sure that they have the things they need, either through food drives, through food delivery, making sure recently now you're starting to see that the stimulus checks are coming to the people. That's a huge thing for them to have those extra dollars that they need. So those are the discussions that we get into is exactly, we're on the ground right now. How do we deal with those families and how do we deal with those businesses to make sure that they can continue to operate? Because you want to relieve as much of that stress as you can because they're confined to small areas. They're under the gun to do their business, whether they're in that forefront of the hospital or the first responders. You want to do as much as you can to relieve the day-to-day pressures.
You mentioned restaurants, but expanding beyond that to the entire hospitality industry, certainly that segment is feeling a sharp decline.
Yeah, the whole hospitality industry is really hurting right now because of the fact that businesses are communicating through Zoom and other medias. They're not bringing people into the business to spend the week or for training, things of that nature. And in the city of Irving, we really notice it with our hospitality industry because of the amount of businesses we have and the amount of business travelers that we have. So we're seeing a change in that. So that's going to be one of the things that's going to be tough to come back as well. And in visiting with the hoteliers, they're telling us that they were in about that 80% occupancy and at one of their highest room night rates the 1st of March, and they've seen that drop to where they were in their 70s and 80s as far as percentages now to 4 to 10% in their fields. And they're talking a year to year and a half, maybe even 2 years before they get back to a normal of occupancies and actually room rates.
And all of this comes as the city of Irving is starting to look at the next fiscal year and budget planning. What will the financial impact be for the city?
One of the challenges we run into is that the sales tax is going to see a big hit because the businesses are closed. So you're going to see a reduction, probably 14 to 20% in our dollars that we collect for sales tax. Now, the determining factor will be how do we move forward with that. What we will do is we'll look at this year's budget and see where we can save dollars, where we can cut, and where we can make the wise choices to save money. But within the next 2 months, we'll also be looking at the next year's budget. So October 1st is our new budget season, so we'll be working on the budget here within the next 30 days for next year. So we'll be looking at the cuts and the things that we can do in this year's budget, as well as what we can do in next year's budget. Our two biggest revenues are sales tax and property tax. And the property tax, they're not even sure they can certify a roll, because everybody will be looking at what is their value of their home, what is the value of their business. And if they see their businesses slow down or not being able to accommodate everything that they are used to doing, they're going to look at how they can reduce their costs. And one of the ways will be to look at reducing the value of their real estate. And so we operate on a certified roll. Well, the county is saying with all that's going on, they may not even be able to offer us a certified roll. So that's something we'll have to deal with. So the budget this year will be very interesting.
A lot of work ahead, but numbers and budgets aside for a second, I know you like to focus on the positive, and there are many examples to share. In fact, we have some coming up later in this program. But what inspires you in this? What have you seen?
Well, what I'm really inspired by is the fact that we have great citizens in the city of Irving and the can-do attitude. I mean, you see all the food banks that have come together and they're providing things for the people. What our chamber and what our ICVB and the Las Colinas Association and the city working together to highlight our nonprofits so that people can understand what they're really doing and how important they are at this time is it's amazing. And so I see the people getting food. I see people getting results on how they can move forward with their loans. I was on the phone late last night with a gentleman his loan is coming through now with the SBA so that he can have the dollars he needs to operate for another 2 months. So we're seeing positive in the money is getting to people, the loans are coming to people, but the can-do attitude of the people in Irving is what I'm excited about. People are working together to make sure that we can get through this challenge, and those that are less fortunate, they're finding ways to help them. And so that's the real value I see in the city of Irving and why I'm excited about where we're going and what we're going to do, because the can-do attitude that they have right now working through this crisis is going to shine even brighter when we come out of it and we actually get back to doing business.
And on that positive note, how can residents make a difference and help if they choose to?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that residents can do. I mean, we've talked about the simple things as far as the distancing and the washing of the hands, but also the contributions that you can make through the nonprofits, the help that you can provide to your own family members. I know that there's a lot of angst right now with kids being home. I mean, the time that's spent with your family is so important right now, making sure that the students keep up with their homework, making sure that the families come together. There's so much that's done just by working together at home, but also the opportunity is there to contribute to these nonprofits in different ways. That's the type of thing that we're seeing in the city of Irving.